Now, Aspen Pharmacare, South Africa's biggest pharmaceutical manufacturer, has agreed terms for a deal with the COVID-19 vaccine manufacturer Johnson & Johnson to produce its own branded version to sell in Africa. It's announced today.
According to the new agreement, Aspen South Africa will now sell the finished form vaccine to be branded as Aspenovax to public sector markets in Africa. In addition to this, Johnson & Johnson has agreed to grant Aspen a license to enable intellectual property. CEO of Aspen SA, Stephen Saad, says the company has to date packaged 120 million of J&J's vaccines.
We really are grateful for the support we have received from J&J. It's been unstinting with technical teams here. And it's really given us the confidence as Aspen to boost our capacities from 300 to over 400 next year. And by the end of next year, we'll have to get you annualized of 700 million. It's still short of our aspirational target. We really want to get to 1.3 billion doses to be able to say, on the continent, we have got for one African, we've got one vaccine.
The World Health Organization and the World Trade Organization have hailed this move, saying it will reduce the inequities Africa is facing in accessing COVID-19 vaccines.
It is my sincere hope that this license agreement will represent another step on the way to achieving a more diversified and decentralized global manufacturing base. This is why we're so proud to see this happening on the African continent.
Today's event is proof of how collaboration and smart partnerships can work. It really gives us reason to be optimistic that we can actualize the African vision of seeing 60% of the region's vaccine needs manufactured locally by the year 2040.
Aspen's share price increased by nearly 6% after the announcement. Diabo Sito, SABC News, Johannesburg.
We're now joined by Stavros Nicolaou, who's the Group Senior Executive for Strategic Trade at Aspen Pharmacare, to tell us a little bit more about this. Stavros, great news. You must be delighted.
Peter, firstly, good evening, and thanks very much for having me. We are indeed delighted. I mean, we are more delighted for the continent and what this will mean for patients. This is a really pivotal moment for the continent, a real game changer. We have witnessed time and time again the inequality, the uneven distribution of vaccines on the continent. We also know that the continent imports 99% of its vaccine requirements. This is all set to change. Today's announcement, our cooperation with Johnson & Johnson will mean Africa now has its very own COVID vaccine.
All right, you first, I think, concluded agreements with Johnson & Johnson this time a year ago. So what's different about this deal? What are you able to do now that you perhaps couldn't do with the previous arrangement?
Very different arrangement now. And in fact, our partnership with J&J has evolved over time. The initial arrangement, as you correctly point out, signed roughly a year ago, was for Aspen to contract manufacture for and on behalf of Johnson & Johnson. We have now evolved to an agreement today where Johnson & Johnson will license its intellectual property to Aspen. This means that Aspen will now be able to produce its own vaccine under its own brand name. We have a name for it. It's called Aspenovax. And we will also, most importantly, Peter, determine how this vaccine gets allocated and distributed. Oh. So if we want all of it to go to Africa, it will all go to Africa, of course. And that's the difference. If you control your own supply chains, you control where the product goes, and you lessen your dependence on imports, which has been the problem up until now.
Oh, this is great news. So that's why you were saying that this is significant for the continent. So what are we looking at in terms of volumes and by how quickly? Because we desperately need these medicines.
Peter, firstly, we are in the short term going to be highly focused on getting the regulatory approvals. There's certain accreditations. We're expanding our capacities, as you heard with the clip that was played earlier of Stephen Sard. We've got ambitions to expand our capacities from the current 300 million COVID vaccine dose. That's an annualized capacity. We intend expanding it in Q1 next year to 450 million, then in the medium term to 700 million and possibly beyond that. So that's where the immediate focus is. We will work very closely with Johnson & Johnson. They are a fully committed partner, and we will do our best to deliver product as swiftly as we can so that what is the single most effective tool that we've got in beating this pandemic, which is vaccines, so that we ensure that these vaccines are equally and evenly distributed throughout the entirety of our continent.
Does this deal open the way for more collaborations in the future, more licensing type of arrangements in the future, so that Africa really can become more and more empowered?
These arrangements that are groundbreaking they're always the foundations for other things that come. We went through this exact scenario almost 2 decades ago. Peter, you'll remember this. I remember you interviewing me previously on antiretrovirals. So we've kind of been through this before, except this is on a much bigger scale. This is a pandemic that is destroying lives and livelihoods. And I think from this will come further diversification of Aspen's vaccines capability, an expanded capacity. And we have also indicated our ambition as Aspen to become involved in the manufacture of the drug substance. So, short answer, we are in a really good space to diversify Aspen's vaccine portfolio and pipeline into the future.
All right, let's talk about your vaccine. I remember one issue was this thing about APIs, active pharmaceutical ingredients, and reliability of supply. What does that mean for you with this new venture?
Peter, the drug substance, or as you call it, the API, the language is used interchangeably. The scale up of the drug substance since the early parts of this year has been significant. Drug substance availability is not really the issue here any longer. What is an issue is that these vaccines have largely been acquired and hoarded by the developed world at the deficit of Africa. So I don't think the drug substance is necessarily much of an issue moving forward. It's how quickly can we scale up and get this product equitably supplied to the rest of the continent. And here I must commend Johnson & Johnson again for the role that they are playing in building, assisting to build capacity on the continent, and also for making their drug substance available so that we can fill and finish that drug substance in Quebec, Eastern Cape.
Price was another issue that's been coming up for us in terms of purchasing vaccines. How is it going to change for the better for us? Are you going to be able to be competitive with your pricing?
We're not yet at the stage where we've determined the prices yet. There's a few hoops we still need to go through to get to that point. What I can say, however, is Aspen remains exceedingly committed to enhancing access of vaccines and other medicines, for that matter, to the continent, and it will be no different in this instance.
All right, so intellectual property, that's the other debate. Where are we in terms of getting these WTO agreements in place so that you are able to jump hurdles much quicker?
Today's agreement, which was, as was correctly pointed out in the clip that played earlier, we were very fortunate to have in our press conference today none other than the Director General of the World Trade Organization, Dr. Ngozi. Of course, she's African herself, and she really hailed this arrangement earlier today. Of course, she is the custodian, if you want to call it that, of intellectual property. And I think these type of arrangements, like the ones that we witnessed today between Aspen and Johnson, are significant accelerators of getting product to market. An IP waiver or intellectual property is really just opening the door. There's a lot of processes that follow or ensue after that, not least of which is the technology transfers, the knowledge transfers, the scaling up your skills, etc. Now, the arrangement we did today where you license the intellectual property accelerates all of those, because you don't have to go and create new data, you don't have to go and work out the technologies, these technologies and the knowledge is transferred. So it significantly accelerates the process.
Stavros, we're going to leave it there. I know that there's a number of news organizations who want to talk to you about this story, but thank you so much indeed for giving us your time, and congratulations. And we look forward to South Africa flying the flag through you across the continent.
Peter, thank you so much. Lovely being with you.
Okay. That's Stavros Nicolaou speaking to us there about Aspen's new deal with Johnson & Johnson. It looks like we're going to be producing vaccines on the continent, and its own name brand, Aspen Novax,